There was a time in your life when you thought you had to fight every battle that came your way, every disagreement, every misunderstanding, every false accusation. You felt the need to defend yourself, explain yourself, prove yourself. You carried a sword in your words, in your actions, in your emotions, always ready to engage, always ready to stand your ground. Because that's what life demanded of you back then. You had responsibilities to protect, a family to provide for, a reputation to uphold. You were raising children, managing relationships, navigating a world that often tried to take more than it gave. You had to speak up when you were mistreated. You had to fight for the respect you deserved. You had to stand firm against those who doubted you, who tested you, who tried to diminish the value of your existence. And in those years, it made sense. In those years, that was necessary. But now life has shifted. You have seen the cycle repeat itself enough times to know that not every battle deserves your sword. Not every conflict needs your presence. Not every opinion deserves a response. Not every situation requires your energy. You have spent years defending your name, your choices, your path, and now you have earned the right to lay down that sword and choose peace over proving. Because here's the truth. Some battles were never meant for you in the first place. Some conflicts were just distractions. Some arguments were nothing more than noise. Some people never really wanted resolution. They just wanted a reaction. And how many times did you give them exactly what they wanted? How many times did you exhaust yourself trying to explain things to people who had already made up their minds? How many times did you try to correct a lie when the people listening had already decided to believe it? The older you get, the more you realize that silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to engage every person who misunderstands you. You don't have to fight battles that don't add to your purpose. You can simply let it be. You see, when you're younger, you think you have to prove your worth. You think your voice must be heard in every conversation. You think your presence must be felt in every room. But with time, you begin to understand your value doesn't decrease just because you choose not to fight. Your wisdom doesn't fade just because you refuse to engage. In fact, your strength is revealed in what you walk away from, not just in what you stand up for. There is a kind of peace that only comes when you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. There is a kind of freedom that only comes when you stop proving yourself to people who were never meant to understand your journey. There is a kind of power that only comes when you realize that some battles aren't worth fighting because your peace is worth more. So, let people talk. Let them assume. Let them tell their version of the story. You don't have to correct them. You don't have to engage them. You don't have to waste one more breath trying to change minds that were never open in the first place. Because at this stage in your life, you understand that your energy is sacred. Your peace is precious, and your wisdom is knowing that some battles don't need your sword, because your silence is the loudest answer you could ever give. There was a time in your life when you felt like you had to explain yourself to everyone. Every decision, every boundary, every moment you chose yourself over what others expected, you felt the need to justify it. You wanted people to understand why you did what you did, why you said what you said, why you walked away from what no longer served you. And it wasn't because you were weak. It wasn't because you lacked confidence. It was because you cared. You cared about your reputation. You cared about being understood. You cared about making sure nobody misinterpreted your heart. You carried the weight of proving yourself to people who were never going to see the full picture. But what did that give you? Did their approval make you happier? Did their validation bring you peace? Did all your explaining ever change the minds of people who had already decided what they wanted to believe? Or did it just drain you? Did it just leave you exhausted, frustrated, and second-guessing yourself every time someone raised an eyebrow at your choices? Because here's the truth. No matter how much you explain, there will always be people who don't understand you. And that's okay. No matter how many words you use, there will always be someone who twists your story to fit their version of events. No matter how hard you try to justify why you've changed, why you've grown, why you've chosen a different path, there will always be those who refuse to accept it. And that's why at this point in your life, you must make a decision. Do you want to spend your energy explaining yourself to people who will never get it, or do you want to use that energy to enjoy the life you've worked so hard to build? Because joy and justification don't go hand in hand. You can't live a life full of peace, happiness, and fulfillment if you're constantly trying to manage other people's perceptions of you. You can't embrace the beauty of where you are now if you're still stuck trying to explain how you got here. You can't hold on to joy while also holding on to the need to be understood by people who have already made up their minds. Joy is a choice, and it's a choice that doesn't require a reason. You don't need to prove that you deserve to be happy. You don't need permission to live a life that makes sense to you. You don't owe an explanation for the boundaries you set, the peace you protect, or the people you've chosen to distance yourself from. You don't need to justify your joy to anyone. But the enemy knows that if he can't steal your joy, he'll try to make you explain it away. He'll use guilt. He'll use memories. He'll use the voices of people from your past who whisper, "You've changed," as if that's a bad thing. He'll remind you of the expectations others placed on you, trying to make you feel like you owe them an explanation for why you no longer live to please them. And if you're not careful, you'll spend the best years of your life defending yourself instead of enjoying yourself. You'll waste precious moments trying to rewrite a narrative that other people will tell however they want. You'll spend your energy proving you're a good person instead of simply being one. But you are not required to carry that weight anymore. The people who love you will celebrate your happiness. The people who are meant to be in your life will respect your boundaries. And those who don't, they were never meant to understand you in the first place. At this stage in your life, your joy must be louder than their opinions. Your peace must be stronger than their assumptions. Your happiness must matter more than their misunderstandings. Because at the end of the day, you weren't put on this earth to justify your existence. You were put here to live, to love, to embrace joy without explanation. And the sooner you stop trying to convince people that your happiness is justified, the sooner you'll realize joy was never something you had to earn. It was something you were meant to have all along. There was a time when you gave your energy away freely. You poured yourself out for others without hesitation. You showed up for people even when they never showed up for you. You answered every call, replied to every text, and said yes when you really wanted to say no. You let people pull you into their problems, their chaos, their emotions, until one day you woke up tired in your soul. Not just physically exhausted, but emotionally drained, mentally overwhelmed, spiritually empty. Because while you were busy giving, serving, explaining, fixing who was pouring back into you, and then it hit you, your energy is your most valuable asset. It's more precious than money, more valuable than material possessions. Because you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. You can't create more peace once it's been drained. You can't get back the years you wasted on people and situations that never deserved your energy in the first place. You see, when you're younger, you think your energy is unlimited. You believe you can handle anything, fix everything, be everything for everyone. But as you get older, you realize your energy is like gold. And gold is not handed out freely. It is protected. It is stored carefully. It is given only where it holds real value. So the question is, where has your energy been going? Who or what has been draining you without giving anything back? Because the truth is, not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your time, your thoughts, your emotions. Some people only come around when they need something. Some people only reach out when they want to pull you into their drama. Some people don't want to be helped. They just want to keep you trapped in the same cycles of complaining, gossiping, and negativity. And if you're not careful, you will spend your best years trying to fix things that aren't yours to fix. You will waste your energy trying to convince people to change when they don't want to. You will exhaust yourself carrying burdens that were never meant to be yours. But this is the season of your life where you have to protect your energy like it's gold. Because it is. And that means not answering every call. If the conversation drains you, don't pick up. You don't owe your time to anyone who only calls when they want something. Saying no without explaining. You don't have to justify protecting your peace. No is a full sentence. Walking away from negativity. If a room is filled with gossip, complaining, or toxic energy, you don't have to stay there. Your presence is too valuable for that. Choosing peace over proving. You don't need to prove your worth, argue your point, or explain why you've changed. Protecting your energy means realizing that not every battle is yours to fight. Prioritizing self-care. Rest is not selfish. Taking time for yourself is not neglecting others. It's refueling so you can continue to give from a place of fullness, not emptiness. Because here's what you must understand. Your energy is either being invested or wasted. And if you are constantly pouring into things that don't pour back into you, you will find yourself empty. Your peace is expensive. Your time is sacred. Your emotional well-being is not up for debate. And at this point in your life, your greatest responsibility is not to keep everyone else happy. It's to protect yourself from anything or anyone that threatens your energy, your joy, or your peace. There was a time when you believed that being heard was the same as being understood. That if you just said the right words, explained yourself enough times, or spoke loud enough, people would finally get it. You thought that if you defended yourself, corrected the lies, or set the record straight, then you could change minds, shift perspectives, and make people see the truth. But life has a way of teaching you that wisdom doesn't always speak, it observes. Wisdom doesn't always explain, it discerns. Wisdom doesn't always react, it chooses when to engage and when to be still. Because the older you get, the more you realize that not every situation requires your voice. Some things are better left unsaid. Some battles are won by walking away. Some people will never hear you, not because you aren't speaking clearly, but because they are committed to misunderstanding you. And when you finally learn to embrace the power of silence, you will discover that what you don't say often speaks louder than what you do. Think about it. How many times in your life have you wasted words on people who weren't even listening? How many arguments have you engaged in only to realize that the other person wasn't interested in understanding, just in responding? How many times have you defended yourself to people who had already made up their minds about you? And what did all that talking get you? Frustration? Exhaustion? The same cycle repeating itself over and over? But silence shifts the atmosphere. Silence forces people to sit with their own words. Silence removes you from the chaos and places you in a position of strength. Because when you refuse to engage in unnecessary conflict, you are telling the world, I know who I am. I don't need to prove it to you. See, the wise don't waste energy trying to explain themselves to people who aren't willing to listen. They don't engage in conversations that drain their spirit. They don't argue with fools, because as the old saying goes, from a distance no one can tell who the fool really is. Silence is not weakness. Silence is restraint. Silence is knowing when your words will make a difference and when they will be wasted. Silence is refusing to fight battles that have no real winner. Silence is the discipline of a strong mind and a mature heart. Some of the most powerful moments in your life will not be the ones where you had the perfect comeback. They won't be the moments where you won the argument or proved someone wrong. The most powerful moments will be the ones where you chose peace over proving, where you walked away instead of wasting your breath, where you let your actions speak louder than your words ever could. Because the truth is, wisdom doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't need validation. Wisdom stands firm in silence, knowing that time will reveal what words never could. At this stage in your life, you've learned that peace is more valuable than proving a point. You've come to understand that silence is not surrender, it is strength. You no longer have the time or energy to fight battles that don't serve you. Explain yourself to people who don't want to understand, or waste your joy on things that drain your spirit. This is your season to focus on yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of wisdom. You have spent years giving, fixing, and carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations, but now it's your time. Time to embrace joy without justification. Time to protect your energy like it's gold. Time to let wisdom speak in silence and let God handle what you no longer need to carry. You have nothing to prove, no one to impress, and no battle worth losing your peace over. So, step into this next chapter boldly. Walk with confidence. Speak only when necessary. Live fully. Love deeply. And guard your peace fiercely. Because you have earned the right to choose yourself. And that is a decision you never have to explain.